talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome to View from the West podcast, the podcast covering high school football in the state of Illinois. I'm Greg Armstrong, joined by my co-host, Mitch Stormer. Our conference previews continue this week, and Mitch, no messing around, no funny business on this episode.
No, not at all. As we like to say, Greg, it's all business in the LLC, and 2026 is not going to be any different, especially in a new look LLC.
That's right. All business in the LLC, the Lincoln Land Conference, the combination of the Lincoln Trail and the Prairie Land Conference. They came together a few years ago. But Mitch, as you referenced, they have a new alignment this year. We'll get into that. We'll get into all things LLC. This is an exciting episode. Mitch, it's good to have you back in the studio to talk some football. Last week, we rolled out our NUIC and our 8-man conference preview. Kyle Kampmeyer and I missed you last week, but we were not short on things to say about the NUIC and 8-man football, that's for sure.
No, not at all. And I, again, would always love to be with you guys. I knew that episode was going to be pretty long. I don't think it's the longest one we've ever put out. Certainly there was an episode with Steve Susi that was pretty long. And there's probably been a couple others, but you know what? For a conference like that, especially when you're covering both the NUIC and 8-man, that's justified. So thank you to Kyle, as always, for being a part of the program. Unmatched knowledge of that conference. So he can fill my shoes anytime.
So go back and check out that episode in the archives if you haven't already, but plenty of people have checked out that episode. Over 1,600 views already on that one just a week in. And Mitch, we talked about it in our recent weeks about the NUIC and the 8-man episode always kind of brings the most views and the most listens of all of our preview episodes every season. So Mitch, that kind of got us thinking that maybe there's something we could do with that, because that's the first one. So to the rest of the conferences, what do we say here?
Well, I think it's time to drum up a little competition here, preseason. So yeah, we're going to put that challenge out to the other conferences to step it up, the fans of those conferences at least, and the schools and teams. So the conference challenge is now born. We are announcing a conference challenge, challenging all conferences to see who can step up and get the most views on our season preview episode. Of course, you can find those on YouTube, as you just mentioned. So let's have a little fun. Let's see which of the mini conferences that we cover can bring in the most amount of pride and the most amount of views here before we kick off in week one.
Yeah, so we just posted the announcement on X a few days ago that we were going to have the conference challenge here to see which conference can get the most views for their preview episode. And then our loyal listener, Andy, over at Godfather's Pizza in Silvis, he caught wind of this and he wanted in. So here's what we're doing here. When a conference preview is posted, go ahead, share that episode on X, encourage others to listen. You can share our post from X. You can send out your own post sharing a link to our episode. But the most important part of this whole process is to use the hashtag VFTW Challenge. So View from the West Challenge. We'll collect the names of everybody who uses the hashtag, promotes a conference preview episode, and you'll be entered into a drawing for a free large pizza from Godfather's Pizza in Silvis. So again, share the conference preview episode that you're excited about and do what you can to help your conference win the conference challenge and put yourself in the running for a free pizza for your efforts. Get out there, promote your favorite conference. Mitch, I'm really excited about this. This is fun.
Yeah, and certainly the NUIC episode set the high bar. That episode, I think you just mentioned, is over 1,600 views. I think that alone is 500 more than it was last year. I think Kyle showed us. So we, first and foremost, thank you for the continued support of this show. Our growth has been fun to watch. But now let's get a little bit more competition going between these conferences and see who can set the bar and beat the NUIC.
Yep, absolutely. I know there's already been some chatter on X in our feed about the conferences that want to step up and, see if they can get it done. So I'm excited to see how it all plays out. So to level the playing field, we will do the total listens within the first week of posting. So for the NUIC episode, we're going to cap it off once this LLC episode posts. So 1 week at a time, who gets the most in that 1 week? Because obviously the NUIC has a head start, right? They've got in first of all of our conference previews. So their episode will cap off this week, and then the LLC has a week to drum up their interest, and then we go from there. So, and it's important to mention that we've had a few names of some people, some loyal listeners that have already got in the game here. They share episodes without even knowing there was free pizza on the line. So some names that we know, Mitch, we're very familiar with. Matt Now, Patrick Divitt, Tony Z, Jeremy Castle, Aaron McCann. Those guys, they're already in. They've already submitted. Now they can keep promoting the episodes they want to win the contest, but they've already shared some posts, so they're already in. They're in line for the drawing for a potential free pizza. Right. So thank you to everyone who's already, shown interest in this, who's already shared an episode. Again, it's VFTW, View from the West Challenge, VFTW Challenge. That's the hashtag. Throw it out there once this episode drops or whatever episode you want to promote. We love the support. And speaking of viewership, Mitch, we did it. We hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers. I think you were a little leery of whether we could meet this next goal, this next challenge, and our listeners, our viewers stepped up.
I don't know if I was weary about 1,000. I remember last year we were sitting at 350, and I think you set the bar at 750, and I was definitely weary of that. There's no question about that. I don't remember being weary about this, but no, nonetheless, it's been awesome to see that channel grow and the work that you put into making videos and content, and even having these episodes become a visual medium now is just been great, and great to see that the viewers like that. Always like to, we get listeners who, if they listen to on their drive to work, if they're working out, but some people just like to sit as if they would watch a TV show, watch the show. So very, very appreciative of the support on YouTube, and 1,000. Did I ever think we would hit 1,000? I don't know, but again, very cool to see, and thank you all so much.
My kids definitely never thought we'd hit 1,000, so
that's you tell people to smash the like button, and they will. So your kids can take that.
I'm still not cool though. Even with 1,000 subs, I'm still not cool.
You never will be, unfortunately.
Nope,
that's
okay.
Not in their eyes.
So, of course, find us on YouTube. Subscribe if you don't. Obviously, that's a plug right there in itself. You can also find us on X and on Instagram. Wherever you follow, we truly appreciate the support. Mitch, the Instagram is getting big. It's growing. Oh, yeah. I'm finding more players, more coaches, more people interacting with us on Instagram. That's a ton of fun.
Yeah. So when we kind of pivoted last year to trying to promote more on YouTube, and I think I had said, well, let's try and get this Instagram going too. And yeah, that probably got to 1,000 quicker than YouTube did. And my phone blows up every single day, all day, with different likes and messages and things like that. So while I love to see that, I may need to turn off those notifications on that particularly. But no, 1,000 on YouTube, 1,000 on Instagram. We surpassed 4,000 on X earlier this off season. So again, can't say it enough. Thank you so much to everyone who is along the ride with us here as we continue to grow and hopefully continue to bring you not only this program, but a much better program than you have listened to or seen before. So thank you so much again for your support.
Yep. Bigger and better. That's the goal every year. Speaking of support, there's still time to get involved as a sponsor. We're always looking for new ways of engagement as our show continues to build. We'd be happy to have you along for the ride. Sponsors can email us at viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Or don't have a business, you want to support what we're doing here, you love what we're doing here, you want to help us out, you can donate at PayPal, paypal.me/viewfromwestpod. Mitch, I don't want to call him out, we'll leave him anonymous, but we did get a donation from PayPal last week, and I gotta say, that was a welcome donation because you're speaking into a brand new microphone here. We got matching equipment now. So just all those things go directly to making this product a higher quality. And I love it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're so thankful for all of our sponsors, but we really do put a lot of money into making this show better. And like, I had a mic, and I'm very picky about that, and you may not have noticed it, or the listeners didn't notice it, but I could hear every time. It sounded like I was drowning in water inside of a phone booth. So very thankful for this new Rode equipment. Not a sponsor, but could be. And like you said, now we have matching equipment. And again, just another thing that we try and be a little bit better at for the improvement of the show. So thank you again for those donations and your support.
Well, when we're talking sponsors, Mitch, tell them about Breedlove Sporting Goods.
Oh, well, the people already know, but let's go ahead and remind them that tonight's episode is brought to you by our friends at Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and a tease here, Greg, online team stores. They provide all the same sporting goods services as the big nationwide companies, but with a faster turnaround. And their uniform pricing is their uniform pricing is a fraction of the cost you're probably used to. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
So we've been promoting it, and it's finally here. Mitch, you teased it. Our 2026 View from the West merch store is available now. If you haven't seen it yet while you're listening, the link is in this description. So it's here now. It's open for orders. And I got to be honest, Breedlove's continues to top themselves. This is by far the biggest store yet. Mitch, some of this stuff I'm not sure that you've even seen. So I'm really excited here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some screenshots here. Of course, the classic, the original shirt, I think maybe my favorite, if I'm being honest, the support local football. That's what we're doing here. We're supporting local football. I love that shirt. I might have to get myself another one because mine is, it's nice and worn in now, but I want a new fresh one. I love that shirt. Kyle Kampmeyer's favorite, football is hard. I feel like that lends itself very well to the NUIC because NUIC football is hard. So
sure is.
So I love that shirt. It's a throwback or a tribute to the Tom Brady retirement speech, if you remember it. So football is hard. We have again the Tecmo Bowl inspired merch for a lot of different teams. You can get hoodies, t-shirts, just sweatshirts. They're all there. It's like I said, it's our local teams with a kind of a Tecmo Bowl theme to it. The Farmington Farmer one was a big hit last year, but check out all these teams, Mitch.
Oh man, look, it just looks like a team selection screen on a old video game system, doesn't it? I don't want to date ourselves here, Greg. We're just gonna say an old video game system.
That's right. Man, give me some sitting on the floor in front of the TV that sat on the floor playing Nintendo like Tecmo Bowl. That's amazing. Yep. I would have played with like Geneseo or like Rock Ridge in an old Tecmo Bowl game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I still want to do this. Would take a lot of work, and we talked about it last year. Doing a week that is just strictly themed retro. A week that I could commit to making the scoreboard graphics with all of these logos. I don't think we have them for every team. We would certainly have to do that, and that'd be a big effort. But maybe sometime we'll have the chance to do it. But they just look so nice, just like that. So as Greg said, you can get them in a variety of products. A little bit of an a la carte action. Pick your logo, pick your shirt. Breedloves can make it happen. So whoever you're a fan of, most likely you're going to be able to find your school here to be in our shop and could be at a football game near you quite soon.
That's right. That's what order now to get it before the season starts. So looking at the LLC, we have West Hancock, which is new for this season. Their Tecmo Bowl helmet is there. We have Bureau Valley, Farmington, Macomb, Elmwood, Brimfield, Stark County, Knoxville. If you don't see your team and you want to buy your team's merch that looks like this, let us know. We can communicate with Breedloves. We can do what we can to make it happen. So, if you don't see it now, let us know. We can try to do what we can to make it happen. But I'm really excited about this. And Mitch, here's some more exciting stuff. The Olympic Conference. Some schools like Knoxville, Macomb, Farmington, they remember the old Olympic Conference. So here it is in a retro shirt. I love this look. I love the feel to it.
This would have been the right kind of time frame for these logos, right?
Yeah. Yep. Well, and when we first started covering games, it was the very tail end of the Olympic Conference, I believe. So I love this look.
Yeah, no, that's a great shirt.
And Mitch, have you seen these yet?
I have not seen these yet.
So we got some tumblers, we got some cups, we got some water bottles, all with the View from the West logo on them. This
Beautiful.
was a surprise to me. I didn't even know these were coming. And Abby said, "Oh yeah, we got those all ready to go for you." And I was like, "Man, that is amazing. That's great
Awesome.
stuff." So no offense to my travel ball, cup
Right.
here, but maybe it has to be retired to get one of these View from the West cups.
Our apologies to the Quad City Heat or whatever that is.
No. It's don't do Heat, Mitch. It's the Rage. It's the Rage.
I can't read. I don't know.
The Heat is a rival organization. I don't want to talk travel ball.
You're acting like I called it a Cubs Cup or something.
I don't want to talk rival travel ball stuff here. So
yeah, I don't need the smoke from the Quad City baseball scene.
That's right. No, you don't. And then, of course, we got some hats. We got new hats. We got some beanies there. We got some stocking caps. So very excited to get those out there as well. And
Yep.
Mitch, you're rocking a View from the West hat there. I got one on as well.
Love this hat, but looking at those, I'm gonna have to get a new one.
Yep. So we got a few other designs I think we're gonna bring out there eventually, but for right now, that is what we're looking at. There's a lot of stuff in that store. Like I said, Breedloves continues to top themselves. More to come. That's a tease. There's a little bit more we're gonna add to that store, but for right now, there is so much there to go check out. So go take a look and see. There's something for everybody in that store. So
yep.
The conference previews continue through the next month. We've talked about it. The NUIC and the 8-man episode dropped last week. We'll talk LLC in this episode. July 28th will be our big Northern Conference preview with our insider Tanner Wilhelm. We've already been texting back and forth with Tanner. He's back on board. August 4th will be the track, the Three Rivers preview. Of course, we bring in Ty Taylor from WRMJ. He knows the ins and outs of the track, so we're going to be ready to go with that one on August 4th. August 11th will be the Western Big Six preview. That will be our cap off of our preview episodes before we get into week 1 and talk about the season that's ahead. But all that is building up to our second annual View from the West kickoff party set for Sunday, August 9th at the Other Bar. Back at the Other Bar again. It's going to be a great time. There will be Godfather's Pizza. Breedloves will be on site selling merch this year. That's a new addition. We didn't have that last year. I'm really excited for that. We'll have some giveaways. And if you attend, the team of your choice gets entered into a drawing at the end of the night, the end of the episode, for a special edition View from the West Kickoff Party 2026 t-shirt. The View from the West helmet with the helmet of the team of your choice. You can get a t-shirt for the whole program. So last year's winner was the Fulton Steamers. They brought home the shirts thanks to Tony Z. I believe he put his name in the hat, put in Fulton. Right. They won the raffle. So there you go. That's a tease to going to attend in person, because put your school out there. You could win your school some shirts. So it'd be really cool.
Awesome. Nope. Love it. Yeah. So like you said, Sunday, August 9th, I'm still trying my best to be there. I still cannot commit just yet, but would love to see everybody there. If I can't make it, though, of course, we anticipate having a great selection of fans and players and coaches there. So even in my absence, it's going to be a great night, and should be another terrific episode with our friend Matt Randazzo.
How about this,
on his
Mitch?
Birthday?
We on Matt Randazzo's birthday, of course. Matt Randazzo will be there as one of our co-hosts from Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. But how about we spin it this way? We say, when you're there, Mitch, it's going to be a great time.
You can spin it however you like. It's up to me to make it a reality. I understand that. So I'm hoping. I'm just going to say that I'm hoping.
All right, there we go.
We will have to rearrange our recording that week if we're going to release the Western Big Six 2 days later. We're going to have to think that through.
We will. Yes, we will have to figure that one out. It's going to get tricky here, Mitch, because I'm actually going to Florida next week. So I'm trying to make sure all of our episodes are squeezed in around that trip. And I know I don't want to get made fun of for, being coddled here and, I get to go and travel around and do whatever. But
Right.
we're trying to squeeze in all the episodes around that trip before I got to come back. And then reality sets in that it's go time. It's, it's school and it's football and it's everything else.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, absolutely.
So remember, share your favorite conference preview episode on X using the hashtag VFTW Challenge. Help get your conference the most views, and you get a chance to win that free pizza from Godfather's Pizza in Silvis. So there we go. One more note before we get into the episode, Mitch. The IHSA has announced football schedules will officially be released July 22nd. So if this is July 21st that we're putting this episode out, it'll be tomorrow, July 22nd. I think they said 10 a.m. Finally, in my opinion, this is way overdue.
Yeah, and I don't want to diminish the work that's done by the SID unit there at IHSA. I know that it's a lot. And I know that schedules are rapidly changing, but I would think that this could have been done earlier, and it could help teams that are looking for an opening. We try our best on X or whatever it is, word of mouth, to try and say, hey, do you have something open week 8? If it was on the IHSA website a little bit sooner, coaches could do their own research on that. But again, I'm not going to pretend to know what goes into releasing that schedule. I'm with you. Maybe a week or two too late, but it's here. It'll be here tomorrow, and I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, I will give a shout out to Steve Susi. He does the legwork and gets his own schedules compiled on his own, which is remarkable. So he did share that with us. I have been able to look through that to kind of get a sense of, who plays who and when. But I think for promoting the product, for promoting IHSA football, like this, if the schedule's starting earlier, this should have been out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I would say a long time ago, but man, it's hard to promote the product when we don't know the games, right? So
yeah,
it's just, again, I don't know what goes into getting it posted, but I feel like it could have been posted sooner.
Yeah. And we're playing devil's advocate a little bit, wishing it was out sooner, but understand the amount of work that it takes for however many teams that is, however many games that is, and getting that all into the system. So we can get off our soapbox on that. They'll be out tomorrow, Greg.
I know. All right. Well, let's take a quick break and we'll get into the Lincoln Land Conference. This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages, Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
Shouldn't financial advice focus on you? I can help you plan for your financial future, from protection to saving to retirement. I'm Nate Neighbor, your Modern Woodman representative. Call me at 309-233-2656 or find me on the Modern Woodman website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodman representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodman of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through MWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodman of America.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together. You can find me in my Byron office most days until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful high school football season.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Welcome back to View from the West podcast. It is our official season preview for the Lincoln Land Conference. And Mitch, before we get into the teams and the players and the names we need to know, there's a new conference alignment coming this year. You can see this beautiful graphic on screen if you're watching on YouTube. Mitch, I believe you put this together way back in the spring or in the winter. And, here it is. Fast forward. These are the division alignments that will play out in the Lincoln Land Conference. So, Mitch, if you want to go ahead, give us the rundown of each division and how they shake out.
Okay, so now the Lincoln Land is no longer large and small. It is 3 divisions of North, South, and West. Let's start in the North. You will have Anawan Weathersfield, Bureau Valley, Knoxville, Princeville, Rovo Williamsfield, and Stark County. In the South, you've got A-Town, Havana, LVC, Rushville Industry, South Fulton, and Monmouth United. The important note here, as you can see on the screen, the North and the South Division will still get automatic bids into the postseason. The caveat on the West Division, they will not. The West Division is Elmwood, Brimfield, Farmington, Illini West, Macomb, and West Hancock. So they have only 5 in that division, so that's why they will not have that automatic bid. But I do think that division has 5 playoff teams in it. So, it's a whole new look here, whole new landscape for the Lincoln Land. Once again, a conference that's seen a handful of changes over the years, and this is just another chapter in the book that is the LLC. But I like it. I think this kind of not regionalizes teams, but you've got some of the bigger teams together, maybe a little more, more regionally aligned a little bit better. So, no, it's going to be interesting. I like it.
Yeah, I think it does a combination of a couple things. Like you said, it brings together some more regional-based games, but I think it also brings together, at least in the current moment, at the current point in time, it brings together teams that are kind of at the same level, right? Whether it's enrollment-wise or talent-wise, I believe it brings together like schools. So I think that's a good thing long-term, at least for, maybe not long-term. I believe it's a good thing for right now, for what this conference, nothing is long-term in high school football anymore. But for right now, I think this is the best possible setup for these schools, these particular schools.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think let's just look at Macomb as being a 4A school that would play some of these 1A and 2A teams. So and again, I don't know the schedule just yet, but I know it eliminates some of those games that we're used to seeing in years past. But again, I think like you said, it separates it a little bit better. I think we're going to have teams that have a shot at getting into the postseason. I think we have more opportunity for teams that have not won this conference before to maybe win their divisions now that we're separated just a little bit.
Yep. One more quick note before we get into each division is that, like you said, the North and South will retain their automatic bids. The West will not. I don't know that that's really as critical anymore to get that automatic bid because you're going to get into the playoffs at 2 or 3 wins to that play-in game anyway. So you're talking about getting maybe better seeding, certainly if you win and you get that automatic bid. But for the West Division not to have it, I don't think that's a real big detriment in either way. What I do think is worth noting is the West Division will all play 1 non-conference game. And, Kyle and I talked about it on last week's episode of the NUIC. I know that from a scheduling standpoint, having a locked conference where you play either your division or you play your crossover games, I know it's easier from an AD standpoint, but I do like the idea of Macomb, Farmington, Elmwood, Brimfield, Illini West, West Hancock getting the chance to go out and find one more opponent that they can challenge themselves with. Whether it's Macomb finding somebody that's a bigger school to get in there because they know they're going to be going to 4A, or for Farmington, who's been really good the last few years, to find a school that will really challenge them in the regular season as well as the conference itself. I think that's good. I think having 1 non-conference game is good. The North and the South divisions will play crossover games against the West. So,
yeah, and we teased this 2 episodes ago. We've talked to a coach in this conference looking forward to next year because they know of another school, a bigger school than them, that has an open date and they're trying to work something out. So it's a two-sided coin, right? Like you get that flexibility, but then it's kind of hard to fill that void. So, but I do like it. We've talked about the ever so changing landscapes of conferences gives us the opportunity to have games that we maybe don't normally get to see, whether it's in the playoffs or not, especially if they're in different classes. So, I always like seeing new teams playing different opponents, and now, at least in the West, they get that opportunity every year.
Yep. So, Mitch, I kind of think that when I look at these divisions, I think each division has kind of their own unique storyline. I'm really excited about this episode, and because the way that these divisions have aligned, and I kind of have like a theme for each division. So if you'll let me go through and explain, please. I think the North division is all about growth. I think that we start talking about the teams in the North. I think that they are teams that have had potential the last couple years, but this year is a year where they have a lot of experience returning, and they got a lot of guys ready to be impact players. Now, that excludes Anawan-Wethersfield, who they've obviously had a load of talent. They've been a really good program the last few years. I think every other school in this list is a team that they're on the rise, and I think that they're ready with the players they got that were younger, ready to make the next step. So that conference or that division is really fascinating to me. The South, I think, is all about opportunity, because last year, when you look through, the only playoff team in last year's mix was Rushville Industry. That Rushville Industry team looks entirely different this year based on graduation. So I think the opportunity here is for multiple, especially now when you look at the conference or the way the playoff structure is set up, there's multiple opportunities here for these teams to play in a play-in game or a playoff game in that round of 32. And my last one, the West, I think is all about the established programs. You got Farmington, Illini West, Macomb, West Hancock, and Elmwood Brimfield. 4 of those 5 teams made the playoffs a year ago. The only one being Elmwood Brimfield did make it, but Elmwood Brimfield, going back years before that, had historically made the playoffs every single year. So I think they are the established conference, and they're all fighting it out now for maybe not just that playoff berth, but they're fighting for that round of 32, that bye week where they can get in past that first round. So, Mitch, does that make sense, the themes we have here?
Yeah, no, I think you're on the right track, especially in the South. Like you said, it's an opportunity there for someone to get that automatic bid that maybe they haven't in years past. So, no, I think you're right on the right track, and I said it before. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. All right, well, here we go. Let's jump into the LLC North. We'll start with the small school division champ last year of the LLC, Anawan-Wethersfield. Head coach Tony Grip, 11-1. He led the Titans to the 2A quarterfinals. They return 5 on offense, 6 on defense. Mitch, give us some of the names on the offensive side of the ball, and then we'll get into the preview here.
Sure. Yeah, you'll be seeing a lot of running back Danny Hested in this offense. Usually this Anawan-Wethersfield team known for their bruising rushing attack, and Danny Heston's going to be the name to watch there. But in order to have that sort of rushing attack, you need to have the big fellas up front. So we're talking Ryder Specht on the O-line, Jackson Dunn on the O-line. But we've also seen this group be able to throw it a little bit. Cole Goodley and Tresson Jape there as receiving targets for Anawan-Wethersfield this year. So offensively, we can expect, I think, another pretty fun team to watch. They usually put out some pretty eye-popping numbers on that offensive side of the ball. But don't forget about that defense, too. Some big names to watch here on defense. Case Specht on the line, Maddox Thurston in the defensive backfield, and then the anchors, a couple of linebackers, Colin Hodge and Reese Rumbold. Look out for those two.
So those are the names. I think overall, they are new names, but I think what Coach Grip and what this Anawan-Wethersfield program kind of prides themselves on, not just this year, but going back year over year, is that there's continuity in this program, right? That every year the system, the program kind of remains the same, and the players fill in. They've seen it their freshman, sophomore, even their junior year, and now they're ready to kind of be the leaders on this team. And that's huge when you talk about any program.
Yeah, it's that experienced program culture. I mean, this group has not missed the playoffs in their entirety, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So it's a winning culture. They're used to it. They've been used to it since they were in Pee Wee football. So it's the culture there. These are battle tested role players. They're going to be coming back for this Annawan Wethersfield team, and any new wrinkle is a new opportunity for a more dynamic offense, maybe a different skill set than they've had in years past. So I really think that this group is going to be poised and ready once again to make a run at a conference crown.
Yeah, Coach Grip mentioned developing a vertical passing game, so interesting to see if a new quarterback stepping in, what they have in that, and then also just getting those new starters comfortable early in the season. That's going to be huge, just getting those guys ready for varsity game action, whether they've been a varsity player or not, just being ready to start and lead the program.
Well, and that's got to be a key here for not only Annawan Wethersfield, but I feel like it'll be a pretty common thing that they've got to build momentum pretty quickly here with these newer start times. They want to be able to build that momentum in fall camp on this new schedule timeline that everyone's going through. Got to be able to start the season quick, get off on the right feet, get your wins under your belt. And again, just get those new contributors up to speed as quickly as possible. So going to be a test, but this is a group, this is a program that we've seen do it year in and year out.
And Mitch, the fun tidbit or the side note that Coach Grip includes every year, and I love it, the Sandhill Day, the demanding team workout, followed by the team brunch. I'm in for the brunch part, but the Sandhill Day sounds brutal.
Yeah, no, I'll show up for brunch, and that'd be the end of that story. Pretty sure. Yeah, it's always a fun thing to hear about. I don't want to say how fun it is to participate in, but like you said, just a rite of passage here that the players look forward to, and a good way to build that camaraderie early, especially when you might have some new pieces that you need to bring together early.
Yep. So this Annawan Wethersfield team, I think, no surprise, Mitch, they're a team that was mentioned several times in coaches who thought they'd be in the mix or people that thought they'd be in the mix to win this division. So we'll see. We'll give our predictions at the end, but we'll keep moving along here. Bureau Valley, the Storm, second-year head coach at Bureau Valley, Pat Elder. Last year, just 1-8, but they returned 6 on offense. They returned 7 on defense. They have Dane Stewart as a fullback. He was over 800 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. They have Keenan Richter, who had 280 rushing yards and a pair of touchdowns, and Tucker Shane also had 144 yards and touchdowns. So some guys who saw some action, had some carries. They're looked at to kind of lead this offense this year. You'll have Stewart as a linebacker and a defensive lineman. Reed Maynard as a linebacker, also Tucker Shane as a defensive back, and Tyler Donnelly as a defensive back as well. So this Bureau Valley squad, only one win a year ago. But Mitch, we talked about this division as kind of a division of growth. I think this is one of those teams you look at that could be growing or developing this year.
For sure. A season that they saw bring in Coach Elder, a season of transition. We saw that on the field, but there were games that they were in and they picked up a win there towards the end of the year. So you started to see flashes from the Storm team. So I expect them to take a significant step forward here. A strong core group of players, bring in some from talent. They've been successful in the younger groups recently. So I think this Bureau Valley team is going to be a lot better than they were last year. They're seeing more depth, more increased participation from their upperclassmen, and just a better team speed, right? Something that we've seen from Bureau Valley teams in the past. So the pieces are in place, I think, to improve, and I'm looking forward to seeing Pat Elder's second season here.
Well, and I think that's, to your point, having Coach Elder there in a second season, I think what he's looking at is kind of that improving the consistency on offense and defense and special teams, just all the way around, improving consistency, just, developing that, kind of expectation of every play, every down, getting the job done. I think a big part of that comes with being comfortable in Coach Elder's system, right? So I think that him being comfortable with these players and the players being comfortable with him. I think that the second year, we've talked a lot about it over the years, with really good coaches that come into a program, give them a year to kind of set that foundation. I think you have that here at Bureau Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as they can develop that consistency, all three phases of the game, develop the returning players with bigger roles, and get this younger group accustomed to, like you said, the system, the culture, get them up to speed. And again, I think this Bureau Valley team will be much better than the 1-8 record that they had last year. I thought they were better than the 1-8. It was a tough schedule for them, but I think in this new alignment, we'll see a much more improved Storm team.
Well, and to your point, I really like having Bureau Valley in the mix with Anawan Wethersfield, with Stark County. It just feels more local, right? Those schools all playing pretty nearby each other. That to me is really exciting. I think, Mitch, the biggest key for this Bureau Valley team and for Coach Elder is that Pat Elder listens to his dad. If he just listens to John Elder, there's going to be a lot more success out there in Bureau Valley.
Yeah, they've got the blueprint. They'll get there.
That's a little reference to the interview with the Elders, the off-season coaching conversation with John Elder and Pat Elder. Fantastic interview. There's so much fun to sit down and talk to. I could have talked for another 3 hours with those two, but we were not limited on time, but we want to maintain a certain time limit. So anyway, that's a great episode. Go back and listen to that one. All right, let's keep moving down the list. Knoxville head coach Marty Turner had the Blue Bullets at a 5-5 record a year ago. They lost to Clifton Central in the first round of the playoffs. They returned 5 on offense and 6 on defense. So again, that reoccurring theme, Mitch, of teams that are developing. They're getting better with their experience they've had from last year. Tell us some of the names we got to know, and there's some repeated names here in the list.
Yeah, I'm excited for the Blue Bullets this year. Look no further than where they're going to be running the ball. If we know anything about Knoxville football, it's that they're going to run down your throat. The Harshbargers, Easton and Austin are back, a combined 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. Easton's over 6 yards per clip. Austin was almost at 10 yards a carry. So you're going to see one of those two guys running the ball this year. And kind of like we talked about earlier, your running game's only as good as what you have up front. Lucas Herring is back as a sophomore. He started all 10 games last year as a freshman. Then bring in Ethan Bailey and Jaden Cantu, 2 upperclassmen. So you have 3 offensive linemen providing that experience up front to set the tone for that rushing attack that we know Knoxville is going to bring. On the other side of the ball, the Harshbargers are 2 of their leading tacklers, but look at Donovan Anthony, 34 tackles last year, 4 tackles for a loss. Hayden Warner, 23.5 tackles with an interception. Talked about Ethan Bailey on the offensive line. He's got 7 tackles for loss and a sack. On the defensive line, same thing with Cantu, 10 tackles and a tackle and a half for a loss. So going to see a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, but very, very good players. Again, I like what I see on paper from the Knoxville group.
Yeah, and what I think is interesting is that they return a young roster, but also an experienced roster, right? Like there's some guys that are still sophomores that have already had a big impact and juniors that have had a big impact. So that's really exciting for Marty Turner and what he's got going on here. And, they really want to hang their hat on being that physical style of play with that experienced line on offense and defense and the talent they bring back in the backfield. I think that really puts them in a spot to compete week in and week out. Like you said, I'm interested in what this Knoxville team has.
Yeah, I have to replace the quarterback, but when you've got a line and running backs like that, that makes a new quarterback's job a little bit easier to have that trust, and they can commit to running the ball a little bit as they get a quarterback up to speed. But building that quality depth across all 3 phases, I think we're going to say that a lot about a lot of teams. But, I think for keys for Knoxville is they do have these younger players. Some are experienced, but some maybe not so much. Just continue to develop them quickly, contribute against a schedule that's going to be filled with, as we've seen before, playoff caliber opponents. So it's not going to be an easy road for Knoxville, of course. But again, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah. Yep. I think there's interest. There's excitement here. I got to give a shout out to Coach Turner, and he's a huge fan of what we do, but also he always gives us some really good background on, he's really tuned in to the history of Knoxville football. Last year, He gave us a ton of information about the team they were honoring a year ago. This year, they're honoring the 1986 Knoxville team, coached by Dennis Larson, who has his name on the field out there in Knoxville. Mitch, you'll love this. They're recreating the team shirt and presenting one to every current player and coach. So talk about like connecting the players to the history of the team. It's got to be a shirt, man. That's awesome.
I do love a good playoff shirt. We talked about that in our Things We Love episode.
Yep.
So, no, what a great way. Like you said, I think that gets lost sometimes with these programs that maybe they don't commit as much enough time and resources to remembering their great teams of past. But shout out to Knoxville for this one. That's really cool. Great to see.
Yep. All right, well, let's keep moving our way down the list. Princeville, head coach John Carruthers had Princes with 7 wins a year ago. They were 7-3 overall. They lost their 2 regular season games by a combined 9 points. They lost to Anawan-Wethersfield 17-14. Rushville Industry, they lost 40-34. I think that was a crazy overtime game, right? I think we saw some of the highlights on the instant reacts on that night.
Yeah. They were those were crazy games. That they were right there. They could have finished very close to being undefeated in the regular season, and they lost that playoff game to a good Hayworth team. So no, the Princes had a great season last year. I think they'll have to replace their quarterback, Caden Sarnes. We did not get a ton of information from Princeville. It's always been kind of tough to crack that nut down there, but they always seem to be that team that is in a game, right? They are a perennial like 5-4, 6-3 team that's always right there on the cusp. They always play tough no matter what their record is. So I expect a lot of that again this year from the Princes.
Yeah, I think that from what I've heard, based on some, reports out of 7-on-7s, take that for what you will. They have some athleticism. They have some good size, but obviously we don't know what their line play looks like. You're not really getting much of that in a 7-on-7. But to your point, I think under Coach Carruthers, I think you're going to get a team that, their lows are never really very low, right? Like they're always going to be right in the mix. So I don't expect there to be a big drop off, even if some of the names and some of the players look different. I think what's interesting is a tough part maybe for Princeville is they are in a division with a lot of teams that have a lot of experience coming back. They might not have as much coming back as these other teams do, but again, I think Princeville's kind of always in that mix a little bit. Roeville-Williamsfield, the Cougars, Grant Goldstrand had them at a 2-7 record a year ago, not where they had been in the last several years. So a little bit of a down year, but they returned 7 on offense and 6 on defense. Mitch, looking at the offensive side of the ball to start with, several guys who can make plays, either catching the ball, running the ball. You have Max Nichols. He had 20 receptions a year ago. You also have Jaden Kep. He's a running back with 64 carries. He had a couple touchdowns as well. Parker Tamburo had 8 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You also have some offensive linemen here in Riley Triplett, Landon Anderson, and Max Miller. So they have a handful of pieces there on offense. Tell us a little bit about the defensive side of the ball.
We got a lot of production coming back on the defensive side, too. Jose Estrada in the defensive backfield, 41 solo tackles last year. Garrett Goff as a linebacker, Noah Sornberger as a linebacker, and a couple of linemen that we just talked about, Max Miller and Riley Triplett. So on both sides of the ball, Greg, this is a Roeville-Williamsfield team that brings back a lot of experience, especially up front on both sides. A lot of returning linemen, and that should prove to be very good experience for, like you said, a season last year that didn't go the way that Coach Goldstrom would have wanted. But this year, maybe they've got the pieces, maybe they've got that experience now to turn the corner.
Yeah, I think one thing you got to look at is this group was an undefeated fresh soft team a year ago, which gives this Cougar team a lot of optimism heading into 26. They're hoping that improved depth, that team buy-in, especially coming off that undefeated fresh soft team, and, another year in the same defensive system there at Rova, Williams Field, they're hoping that this is a step forward in 26.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just talked about that experience on both sides. Maybe there's a little bit more buy-in now after a tough season, talented young core that gained valuable varsity experience last year. So maybe got thrown into the fire a little bit, but that maybe sharpened them just a little bit. So it's about regaining that confidence, but maybe creating some more explosive plays. We've seen this Rover Williamsfield program have some playmakers over the course of the history of our show over the last couple of seasons. So getting back to that, being more consistent on defense, and I think they'll be right where they need to be.
Yeah, you talk about maybe improving defensively. This will be year 2 in their current system that they have in place. So it's like we talk about. A lot of times that first year, you kind of learn some things and you kind of learn how to adjust. Maybe these players understand the system a little better. They're more adjusted to it heading right in from game 1. They're not learning on the fly in field. So I think that'll make a little bit of a difference. But Mitch, if we're talking about new improvements at Rova Williams Field, how about brand new concession stand, a new entranceway, new bathrooms, everything new for 2026 out there for the Rova Williams Field facility. Bill Adams Field, one of our favorites. They're getting an upgrade.
Yeah, it's never a bad thing to put a little refresh on a classic stadium. The coaching staff's also going to feature some former Knox College head coaches in Andy Gibbons and Aaron Willits, whose experience will certainly help strengthen this program as well.
All right, well, let's move our way to Stark County. Head coach Jade Nord had the Rebels finish at 5-5 last year, but talk about the tale of two different seasons, Mitch. They were 5-0 to start the year, and then they end up losing their next 5. Now, we talked about it during the season and during the Instant Reacts every Friday. Their schedule was very backloaded. They played their best opponents in the last 5 games. And I think as we're going to learn here, they had a lot of players that were playing, as sophomores, as juniors, a lot of players back, a lot of experience back. They have 6 back on offense, 7 back on defense. They have 12 on offense and 13 on defense that started at least 1 game. So they had a lot of players that got in on the action last year. I think this Stark County team is, again, another team that's growing. So give us some of the names you see here, Mitch.
Yeah, well, and just to go back to what they dealt with last year, 4 playoff teams to end the season, including Annawan Wethersfield, and then had to play Annawan Wethersfield in the first round. So, yeah, it was definitely a tough scheduling format for Stark County, but another year in the playoffs for the Rebels, so no matter what it looked like. And then like you just mentioned, they bring back a lot of guys, so I'm looking forward to seeing if they can get back there again. But Jackson Knobloch will be a guy we see running the ball a lot. Caden Turnbull will get his reps as well. Offensive line, look for Jake Primo to anchor that offensive line. Connor Down will be a receiver for the Rebels a receiver to look for, I should say, for the Rebels this season. Flip to the other side of the ball. Lewis O'Brien, Keegan Sparks, Jeremiah Seibenthal, and Cash Kinsella, all players that can play linebacker. You can throw them on the D line. Some versatile players on defense for Stark County this year.
Can we talk about Stark County always has some all-name team members with Jake Primo.
Preseason all-name team here at Stark County, going to be very, very heavy Rebel.
Jake Primo, Cash Kinsella, I love it. Marty Keegan Sparks, for that matter. Come on, these are good. These are good names. So
you didn't say the ones that you knew you'd mispronounce too.
You did a great job.
You leave it to me to screw it up, and then you get to play the hero.
I play the hero. That's who's going to say the same thing. All right. So, Mitch, as we talked about, Stark County has a lot of experience logged out of this varsity group coming into 2026. Coach Nord thinks they've gained significant strides in the weight room this offseason. He thinks they're going to be a stronger physical football team, which is huge. he says a lot of their potential will depend on, consistency on offense at the quarterback position, continuing to improve in the offensive line, and just being tougher against the run defensively, stopping the run. So he thinks that, their team's strength is the experience they return and just that productivity that they've gained in the offseason together, as this group. So this is another team that I'm really interested in this division.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we know what this division is going to do. They're going to run the ball. And as you just said, they want to find that consistency in defending that run, being able to improve their offensive line play so they can run the ball themselves. And as you mentioned, there's going to be a quarterback competition. So who can come out of that? And there's still some answers, I think, for Stark County, but I think they're in a much better spot heading into 2026. And it's hard to say that because they started off 5-0, but I think they're going to be more equipped to handle if their schedule looks like it did last year. So I think we're looking at another postseason run here for the Rebels with the names that we just mentioned. Won't be easy, as we know that there's things that they want to get done, but I'm looking forward to Stark County football here.
No, I think, you kind of called it out there, but I think that there was a lot of question marks coming into this Stark County team in 2025. We talked about it in our preview episode, I believe. If you go back a year ago and listen, we didn't really know because they had such a senior-heavy group the year before. So we didn't know what to expect coming into last year. And then they rolled off 5 wins. And, we knew that they were kind of getting some wins maybe against the easier part of their schedule. And then it really picked up at the end. But, in talking to Coach Nord, I think this group learned a lot in those losses, and he thinks they grew a lot in that, that last half of the season, even if it didn't look great, wins and loss wise. But that's another, go ahead and listen to that coaching conversation with Coach Nord. We talked to him in the offseason, so that's a good one to go back and listen to. But yeah, I think this team grew a lot, even despite, the end of the season kind of clunking to the finish. I think they're going to be better off for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
All right, Mitch, time to put you on the hot seat. We've talked through everybody in this division in the LLC North. Who is your winner? The early season prediction here. Who's going to win the LLC? And then maybe I'll give you who's a sleeper, who's somebody you're kind of eyeing that could make a run at it too.
All right, time for our bulletin board material.
That's right. Get ready, coaches.
Portion of the program. I think it's still going to be Anawan Wethersfield division. I think that we talked about the culture that they've had. They've never missed the playoffs. Coach Grip does such a phenomenal job year in and year out of getting that group ready to go. They've got a strong group coming back, right? 5 on offense, 6 on defense. So I think the consistency is going to be there, but I tried to hide my excitement. I don't think I did a very good job. I think Knoxville's a sleeper here. Hard to say a sleeper is a returning playoff team, but I just think what they have coming back with Coach Turner has, just another year under his belt there as the head coach. I think Knoxville is going to make a run at this, but in the end, I will put, I'll hang my hat, I guess, on Anawan Wethersfield once again. All
right. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say Knoxville wins the division.
Okay. I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
And it's I'll admit, it's a hard pick to make because year in and year out, we know what Anawan Wethersfield brings, right? It's a hard pick to make, but like I said, I'm just going to take a chance here. I'm going to go on a limb. I like what Knoxville has. It's a lot of productivity coming back. When you combine that with their offensive line and a lot of production on defense, it's all kind of there, right? So I think it's going to be a tough division to win, but I'm going to go with Knoxville. I'm going to say that Anawan Wethersfield and Stark County are kind of my sleepers right in the mix there to potentially, they could potentially rise up and win it, but.
Okay. No, that's fair.
All right.
That's why you play the games, right? We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll jump into the LLC South and the LLC West.
Take your quarterback play to the next level. Train with Dean Passing Academy. Learn directly from Braden Dean.
former Rock Ridge standout, and the Midwest Conference Offensive Skills MVP at Monmouth College. At Dean Passing Academy, quarterbacks receive elite instruction focused on mechanics, decision-making, and game-like situations pulled directly from film. Serving the Quad Cities metro area and beyond, call 309-798-1094 to learn more and schedule your training today.
View from the West podcast is brought to you by First Wealth Financial Group. Do you have a comprehensive financial plan or simply an investment portfolio? Are your investments part of a coordinated strategy aligned with your goals or a collection of products accumulated over time? Partner with a team built around your goals. Preserve what you've built. Grow with intention. Contact First Wealth Financial Group at 563-242-1885 or visit their website at firstwealthfinancialgroup.com.
This is Dan Pearson. Our Fellowship of Christian Athletes team is pleased to partner with View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Bringing sports and the gospel together is our game plan as we serve 23 counties in our Northwest Illinois multi-area. Yes, all with schools covered by View from the West. Reach out to me if you want to get plugged in with FCA.
FCA, every coach, every athlete.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
All right, let's get into the Lincoln Land South Division. And Mitch, when we started this episode, I thought this division was kind of the division of opportunity. So when you start looking through the list, only one of these teams made the playoffs a year ago. That was Rushville Industry. We'll talk about them in a minute. They got a lot that they'll need to replace. They won't look quite the same. So I think that when you start looking at this group of teams, there's opportunities here, especially when you combine that with the fact that the playoff structure looks different. So let's get into some teams that we think, what's going to happen here. Because I think there's things are going to look different than they did in 2025.
No, I don't disagree at all. So where should we start? Should we head to A-Town here?
I think we're going to Abingdon Avon, to A-Town. Head coach Rick Quinn had the Tornadoes at 3-6 a year ago, but they returned 7 on offense, 7 on defense. And Mitch, before we get into some of the names here, I got to give a shout out to a lot of these players. They're on Instagram and they're all over it. They are excited that we posted our preview, just our little snippet preview. And I'm sure they're going to be excited to listen to this. So shout out to them because they're getting on it and following us on Instagram.
That's the reason why we do it, right?
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into some impact players on the offensive side of the ball. Jamil Johnson, a senior quarterback. He passed for 1,300 yards last year, 15 touchdowns, plus another 7 rushing touchdowns. So a really good athlete coming back there at quarterback. You have junior Riker Darst back again. He ran for over 650 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. He had another almost 200 yards receiving and a pair of touchdowns. But you have running back Carson Stenger is back. He ran for over 600 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. Trey Kennan is back at a wide receiver position. Owen Timmons back at tight end. You also have a handful of offensive linemen in Dax Anderson, Tim Servin, and Evan Plasters. So there we go, Mitch. I just named through almost the entire offense that's production coming back. So that's exciting at the beginning here for the Tornadoes.
Yeah, this is a lot of production coming back for the Tornadoes. Really, really exciting to see. A good mix of experienced seniors and juniors who have experience as well, but another year under their belts. A couple of the same names on the defensive side of the ball. Trey Kennan, 74 tackles as a defensive back. Another defensive back, Riker Darst, 2 interceptions last season. A couple of linebackers in Weston Schultz and Carson Stenger. Big numbers there from a tackle totals last year. Trinidad Seja and Dax Anderson as well on this defensive unit. So, we go through the names, we talk about the numbers. This is a A-Town team that returns the majority of their skill position talent, a lot of their production, experienced offensive linemen. You go back to last season, 3 losses came by combined 4 points. So I remember the preview episode last year, I was high on A-Town. And they played that way, just didn't, a couple of things just didn't bounce their way during that season. But I think they have a very strong belief that the experience is going to pay off here in 2026. Just stay healthy and develop that depth. But, I think they can overcome maybe some smaller roster numbers with what they have coming back.
Yeah, we read through some of the offensive numbers, and you read through the names on defense. But let's talk about these tackles returning. The production, 74 tackles, 59 tackles, 41 tackles, 39, 35. Like, a lot of these guys were doing a lot of work last year, and they're all back on both sides of the ball. So obviously returning a majority of your skill position talent and also having experienced linemen, it just, a lot of this all adds up to what should be a really big team strength for this A-Town team heading into this new look LLC.
Yeah, well, and 3 of those guys were defensive backs and having a lot of tackles. That's probably not something that Coach Quinn wants to have. I think he'd probably rather see some of those tackles happening in the trenches. But you know what? Nonetheless, these are an experienced group of defensive players. And yeah, if they see their tackle numbers go down, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe it's for the better. But yeah, I look at this group, and if they can just be on a step ahead, staying ahead of the game offensively, moving the chains, not being in 3rd down and distance or 4th down and distance, keep your offense on the field, give the defense a break. I think they can get there. I really do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about this A-Town team. We'll talk, more about our predictions at the end of this division, but I think they're one that stands out right from the jump. So, all right. Let's get into the Havana Ducks. Colton Hammond back again. He led his team to a 4-5 record a year ago, 7 return on offense, 8 return on defense. This was a team that I was high on early in the year, throughout the year. They had a couple losses, again, like A-Town, a couple times where they stubbed their toe, and they end up with 4 wins. But I think that there's a lot to be excited about when you talk about this group coming back.
Yeah, I think so too. Just looking at the names here, Jack Turner will be the quarterback for the Ducks. Caleb McDaniel as a receiver. Charlie Sapp out there as well. Carson Tyler, as a running back. Brock Ellett in the defensive backfield. Lucas Miller, Chris Velasquez, Gavin Martin. This is a group that returns a strong nucleus of upperclassmen. They've been playing underclassmen as starters on both sides of the ball, certainly last year, and that's experience that I think the Ducks are hoping is going to pay off here in 2026.
Yeah. See, Mitch, I gave you all those names and you rolled right through them. You nailed it.
Sure did. I'll be the hero for the Ducks on that one.
That's right. That's right. So they will have to replace some production at running back and wide receiver. And Coach Hammond's also hoping they develop more physical, opportunistic style on defense. But I think you have some playmakers there that are, ready to step up and make that happen. Keys to success, they want to establish a new defensive mentality. Like we said, being more opportunistic, more stops, more turnovers, finding a good balance offensively. So the opportunities, Mitch, the themes that we continue to go back to, I think there's opportunities here for the Ducks.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we talked about, that experienced core of upperclassmen with a lot of varsity experience. They've got to replace some production. And they want to be able to develop a more physical, opportunistic defense. Certainly in this division, we talked about opportunity, right? the Ducks, I think, can get there, but they'll have to establish that new identity a little bit, maybe a stronger mentality on the defensive side of the ball, get more stops, get a couple more turnovers, and have that offensive that balance on offense, I suppose.
Yep. All right, let's get into LVC. Lewiston Valley, Cuba, the co-op there. They have a new head coach in Jason Coulter. He was actually an internal hire, so he had been a part of the program for the last few years with head coach David Rodas, who stepped down. Obviously, Mitch, we've talked about it. The LVC has been a struggle. They've struggled. They were 0-9 a year ago. In David Rodas' time as head coach in 4 seasons, they only had 1 win. So it's been a struggle. You got to hope for, if numbers can jump up, if they could get numbers and participation, that's a place to start. And if Jason Coulter, as the new head coach, can step in there and build kind of a foundation, or I think that's where it's got to start. I don't think you're going to go from 0-9 to certainly 8-1, 7-2. But what can you do in this division now, where again there is chances to win some games if you're doing things the right way?
Yeah, and sometimes it does take a new coach, maybe a different perspective to get things going. But like you mentioned, it won't happen in year 1. So, and as you mentioned, LVC is a team that has struggled historically in the history of this show. But maybe Coach Coulter can bring in a new perspective and start to turn the tide a little bit.
Yep. Well, speaking of first-year new head coaches, Rushville Industry also has a new head coach in Craig Elliott. So the Rockets were 7-3 a year ago. They lost to Dwight in the first round of the playoffs, but that Rushville Industry team graduated a lot. They were a very senior-heavy team. Before we get into kind of this team, I want to take a look at new head coach Craig Elliott. He brings more than 18 years of coaching experience to Rushville Industry. Before being with the Rockets, he led North Fulton to 5 playoff appearances, including the 1A semifinals against Galena, and he also guided Beardstown to back-to-back Class 3A playoff berths in 2021 and 2022. So a very experienced, knowledgeable head coach in Coach Craig stepping in here for Rushville Industry.
Yeah, absolutely. They will have some production coming back. Quarterback Brady McGinnis comes back after splitting some quarterback duties last year, threw for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. So at least they have some experience coming back under center. On defense, Grace Kabamba, another all-name team, just automatic right there. 48 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss. The kind of the defensive centerpiece after 5 of the team's top 6 tacklers from last year graduated. So a lot to replace here for Rushville Industry. But as you mentioned, a very experienced head coach can turn that new leaf quicker than maybe others, if you think about it from like a first-year head coach type of thing. But they've got to replace a lot, including a lot of their offensive production. That all-state running back Rylan Reimolds was so much fun to cover last year. Sebastian Berteau, a lot of defensive leaders. So developing those new playmakers, establishing that new identity under a new coaching staff will really be the keys to success, I think, for this group.
So I think that's a big part of it, is what Coach Craig brings to this program as someone who has the experience to maybe fill in for the players on the field, who are learning kind of, on the fly in real time. So let's talk South Fulton and the Rebels. Josh Miller, head coach, had them at 2-7 a year ago. Mitch, we don't know a whole lot about this group coming in, but again, I think the biggest thing is it's a coach who's been there for a few years, and you find yourself in this new alignment of the LLC. I think there's opportunities here, kind of regardless, of what you got coming back. I think it's a division that, when you look at this new playoff structure, get yourself to 2 or 3 or 4 wins, and you're eyeing at least a play-in game to get yourself into the playoffs in the round of 32.
Yeah, I think South Fulton certainly is going to look to improve off of that record from last year. But if you look at some of those games that they had, they were in some of those games early. At a close loss to A-Town. They had that wild game in week 8, a 69-50 loss to Havana. So, a group that just, again, will try and take that next step forward. And as we have talked about with other teams in this division, there's opportunity here. So can they reset a little bit and make that next step forward in this division?
Well, one more team in this division looking to take that step forward. Let's talk about the United Red Storm out of Monmouth. Head coach Andrew Goodwin had a record of 1-8 a year ago, but they returned 9 on offense, 7 on defense. Mitch, I don't know if you've seen it on our social media feeds. They're excited. Coach Goodwin is excited. The players are excited. There's a lot of momentum building here for this United program.
Is this still, because I'm thinking this on my feet, the last program in the LLC to have a state championship?
Oh, man, that is a great callback. I think you got to be correct. Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, Ann Weathersfield doesn't have one. So, yeah. And way back, that was what, 2001?
Yeah. No, it would have been 2004, I believe.
Whatever their first year was?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Either way, I think they have reason to be excited. I think they have reason to believe they can. I don't want to put the bar too high to get back to those levels of that team, but the point being, I think United is in a much better place than they have been in years past, where they can absolutely be much better than that record was and compete for a division title. They've got a lot of production coming back. Kellen Boone at quarterback, 942 passing yards, 9 touchdowns. With 410 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns. There's a lot of time in the end zone for Kellen coming back. Chance Stewart as a running back, 500 yards, 7 touchdowns. You have Cone Sperry, Wyatt Bockelman, and Wyatt Stockdale as the 3 main targets for Boone on the outside. Flip to the other side of the field. Riker Trago. Boy, we got some all names here too. Sperry, Stewart, Bob Kendall, Bentley Cook, Luke Spomke. This is a group that really brings a lot of the roster back from last year, 90% of its offensive production with a veteran group of defensive guys. So playing with limited roster a season ago, they seem to be back with significant depth. And I think that this experienced group of players, we are going to see a much, much different United team this year.
Yeah, I think when you look at, the program growing, they had roughly 33 kids last year. This year, they're expected to be up around 50 or 60. So the program is growing. That's great at face value, right? And so I think you start building. The team is embracing the mentality of brick by brick, the mentality of trusting the process each day, because it's hard, Mitch. Like, it's hard to look back as a part of a team that was 1-8 and they struggled, throughout the season. But you see kind of, if you believe in it and you believe in one another and let the results kind of follow through that effort, I think that I like the messages that Coach Goodwin's putting out here. And I think he's really in and he's really excited about this group, and for good reason. I think that there's excitement for this team, and I think that there's opportunities within this division and then within the playoff structure moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll be talking about United as a playoff team, not just because it's a lower bar this year, but I think that they will be a legitimate, and again, depending on their schedule, I haven't seen it yet. I think they will get to what used to be the automatic 5 wins. I think they'll get there with this veteran group, great coach, a lot of enthusiasm. Community's always going to be behind them. So, yeah, I think the Red Storm are going to be back in 2026.
Yeah. One thing I want to make mention of, this team obviously motivated to get better, to improve, from last year's record, bring the Red Storm back to kind of what they traditionally were and have been over the years. They're also playing for honoring one of their former teammates, Mason Giddings, passed away in November of 2025. They're honoring him this season. So I think just a really important kind of note that these kids are playing for a lot for themselves and for the team, but for him as well. So I think that's a really great message to pass along.
Yeah, much, much bigger than the game, but certainly it's going to be a part of this Red Storm season this year.
So there it is. There is a look at the entire LLC South, the new look divisions in the Lincoln Land. So Mitch, it's prediction time. We got to put ourselves out there. Who do you like in the LLC South?
Well, there's a couple things to like, but I'm going to make my prediction that it will be the greatest improvement record-wise I'm going to hang my hat on the United Red Storm to win this division, to go from 1-8 a year ago to win this division. I think it will be between them and A-Town. I really like what A-Town brings back, but I'm going to side with United on this. I'm excited. They're excited. And I think they've got the pieces to get back to what we're used to United football being like.
I love it. I love it because I'm going to say A-Town wins the division, but I think the best game of the year in this division is going to be A-Town and United.
Yeah.
And now here's a throwback. Here's a callback for you. Mitch, do you remember it was week 8 or week 9 of the high school football season a few years ago? I covered United at A-Town. It was a great game. Both teams were playoff teams. They were playing at a very high level. That was a fantastic atmosphere. I get in the car, and you had texted me or called me and said that Forreston had beaten Lena Winslow. It was one of those nights where before we did the Instant Reacts live, I think we figured out a way to, I was driving and had my phone propped up on my dashboard.
I do remember that. I just don't remember what game it was about.
I think it was a Lee win game, and I think it was Forreston getting a win late in the year. And and I had my phone propped up on my dashboard. We were just doing audio only, but I was kind of recording our instant reactions to that Friday night on my way down Interstate 74. Oh man, that was
I do remember that. I just don't remember what game it was, and it could have been that Forreston game, because that was week 9. Did you say
I think it was week 8 or week 9. It was late in the year.
I think so. That was an emergency, like we need to record right now sort of thing.
But that game at A-Town against United was fantastic. It was a great game, and both teams were playing at a really high level. And then, I get in the car, and I'm talking to you about the other games happening. That was one of those all-time nights, one of those all-time Friday nights. I love it. So that's what I want to get back to here is A-Town and United playing in one of those type of games. And, hey, if it's happening, I want to be there because that's exciting football. So, all right, I love it, Mitch. I love that we both had those teams on our radar, but we thought different about it. That's good stuff. We will,
absolutely.
We will definitely revisit that throughout the year and give each other crap either way about how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
we'll have the receipts ready.
That's right. And the teams will too. So there you go. All right, let's get into the last division to talk about here in the LLC, the Lincoln Land Conference West Division. We start with Elmwood Brimfield. Head coach Todd Hollis had the Trojans at 3-6 a year ago. They returned 3 on offense, 4 on defense. But I think this is a program that we expect to be in the mix. Last year was an outlier at 3-6. This year, I think, will be different. They don't return a lot, but I really trust the veteran experience coach in Hollis, and I think that this program will be back right in the mix.
Yeah, I think you're right, and we'll look to see 2 familiar names running the ball, Miles Alger and Logan Estes, 2 of their leading rushers. Miles was the leading rusher last year. Logan is a 2-year starter. Defensively, another 2-year starter in Gavin Strom, only a junior and a 2-year starter. So, yeah, it was, like you just said, an outlier of a season last year for Coach Hollis. I think that their blend of juniors and seniors will bode well this year. They've developed that chemistry now on and off the field. And if they can make that offensive line the foundation of their teams and get this entire program to its potential, I think we'll see the Trojans back in the postseason.
Yeah, Coach Hollis looks at a strong team chemistry and the potential for their offensive line as team strengths. He talks about areas to improve tackling, including defensive positioning and technique. So just overall kind of improving on defense. Again, I look at a veteran coaching staff that will get those things corrected heading into this season. Keys to success. Mitch, I don't think it's any surprise that a key to success for Elmwood Brimfield, run the football, control the clock. It's like the shirt says in the Breedlove.
I mean, it's running the football, controlling the clock. better technique and tackling. I mean, we're getting back to basics here, and sometimes that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You just got to do the small things right, and that's a good mindset to have, I think.
Well, then maybe people in Elmwood and Brimfield should buy the run, touchdown, repeat, because that's the goal, right? In Elmwood, Brimfield.
Exactly.
So, all right. I like what this Elmwood Brimfield team has coming back. We talked about senior captain Miles Alger. He volunteers as a firefighter when he's not playing football. So I kind of feel
love that.
I kind of feel like he's the fire starter as the running back, and then he stops fires when he's not on the field.
Right. I mean, that's a tremendous tidbit. One of the best ones we've had on all of our preview forums.
Absolutely. And how about junior captain Gavin Strom leaves the preseason camp each of the last 3 years to compete in the FFA show, and every year he wins best in show for his vegetable crops, and he gets back in time without ever missing a practice.
I mean, there's a lot going on there in that sentence, but I love the versatility of this group on and off the field.
I mean, I'm giving shout out here to Gavin's parents because they are organizing, getting him to practice, getting him from practice to show his crops and then back to practice. I'm sure he drives now, but when he was a freshman and sophomore, he probably wasn't driving yet. So
that's right.
So shout out to the parents making it all happen too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. We thank Coach Hollis for those fun tidbits. And also, I want to give him a shout out because I think he felt super guilty that he didn't get his form in on time. And it was like, hey, Coach, you're good. Like, you got it before we start recording. No problem. He went out of his way. He put a promo out there on X to really pump the show and say, if you're not already following View from the West to any of our fans, you should. So I give him a shout. He's promoting the brand here. He's promoting the product. So we love it.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Mitch, how about the Farmington Farmers? Head coach Toby Vallis, a record of 11-1 a year ago. They returned 4 on offense, 3 on defense. Let's get into the players here, Mitch. It's names we're familiar with. Some big-time impact players back for this Farmers team.
Yeah, a lot of production, and one of the top quarterbacks we'll talk about all season across any of the conferences is Carson Noy, coming back as a sophomore. What a tremendous freshman year he had, over 2,000 yards passing, 27 touchdowns. Starting to get some major coverage from outlets outside of us, and for good reason. A very, very good quarterback and only a sophomore, so expect a lot of big things from him this year. Braden Brewer, though, is back as well, 676 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns, over 7.5 yards per carry. So you've got 2 big names coming back. It's going to be different not seeing Jack Gronwald on the sidelines or on the field for the Farmers, but they bring back some names that we're familiar with, some really good players. So it might be a little bit different look of offense, but the names are certainly there. Defensively, Garrett Perkins, someone who Coach Vallis thinks is the best player that no one's really talking about, 3-year starter with experience in a quarterfinal and a semifinal. Trevor Fry, returning starter there as a will linebacker, and Noah Fleming, a returning starter who we talked about a lot in the defensive backfield for this Farmer group. So this is a group that only brings back, like you mentioned, 4 offense and 3 on defense, but big names, big numbers from last year.
Yeah, and we knew, Gronwald was coming back last year, but we talked about they had a lot of questions going into last year, and they certainly answered that remarkably well. I mean, they continue to play at a high level. So it's like one of those things, like, you can't doubt this roster and what they're going to produce. And I think a lot of it goes back to the fact that what Toby Vallis has built and established in Farmington is a lot of depth. You're going to have a lot of players coming through their system year in and year out. There's going to be some new names, but the production will stay there.
I mean, they get like 100 kids on their sideline.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's a tremendous culture there from the varsity level down to the junior leagues. But I expect much the same from Farmington this year with the names we mentioned. It's a dedicated group. Like you said, we're going to rely on a handful of new starters, but this group really played strong last year, coming off of a semifinal season the year before. So if they can get this new receiving corp to emerge and some new linemen to get into the fold quickly, again, it's going to look different without Jack Ronwald in there. But this group really has the potential to do some great things on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. I think what's interesting to note, and maybe what's dangerous for the other teams in the LLC, is that Coach Vallis points out that he thinks the team's strength might be that the defense is expected to lead the way as far as like team culture and really being, the program that they are. But that's not mentioning you bring back Carson Noy and Braden Brewer. So like, I think that's pretty dangerous if the defense is going to lead and you got those guys still coming back on offense.
Well, and they were, I don't think we talked about their defense enough last year.
Yeah.
I mean, a handful, not a handful. Well, no, I stand corrected myself. A handful of shutouts, games that they only allowed one touchdown. Certainly the offense was putting up 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus, a week in and week out. 2 close playoff wins against EPC and Aurora Christian. And then ran into a El Paso Gridley team, which we'll probably be talking about again down the road. But nonetheless, I think Farmington's going to reload. I think they're going to be just fine. One of the best quarterbacks, again, that we'll cover in the entire area. A tremendous player in Braden Brewer. And if those are the two guys we talk about after talking about how good their defense is, they're going to be in a good spot.
So, Mitch, you talked about, other outlets jumping on the Carson Noy train. We've been on that train since last year at this time. And also we're now on the Braden Brewer and the Garrett Perkins train too, right? Like we're in on this.
Right. Yeah. I texted Coach Vallis, don't forget about us when you guys are all famous. So no, it's warranted. They're great players. They should be getting, I mean, that's why we do this, right? To spotlight these kids. Yes. They should be getting the spotlight. And I've always been a proponent of Farmington football over the years. I always think they're better than what the rankings suggest. So now I expect them to do much the same this year. You mentioned it goes back to Coach Vallis, that coaching staff, that culture. Farmington's going to be ready to go.
Yep. All right. Illini West. They have a new head coach this year in Michael Lafferty. They were 5-5 a year ago. They lost to Rock Ridge in the first round of the playoffs. But we'll start with Coach Lafferty. So he is one of the most accomplished players in school history. He was Illini West quarterback, led the Chargers to the 2008 Class 2A state championship game. He went to the 2009 state semifinals. He compiled a 33-4 record as a varsity starter. So what a resume as a player, as a quarterback for Illini West in Michael Lafferty. He'll be joined on this coaching staff by his father, Tim Lafferty, who won 142 games as a head coach and guided teams to 14 playoff appearances and 2 state titles. So a lot of excitement.
This is the part.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the part of the show we have to remind people who don't know to look up what the Carthage Blue Boys used to do to people.
Yes.
Like it's a pillar program that we talk about a lot. The Blue Boys, man, what a group that was in their history before the co-op and new the Illini West designator. But go look up what Carthage used to do to teams back in the day.
Yeah. Well, and then Illini West carried through a little bit. They were pretty good, too.
Sure.
They had a run in there as well. So I think that, yes, to your point, though, Coach Lafferty coming in, he has that tradition. He has that knowledge or that kind of built-in mentality of what it means to lead this program. So I think that, from what we've seen and what we've heard, Mitch, there's excitement here. People are excited about this program. So we'll talk about the impact players on offense. Liam Murphy is a quarterback as a junior. He'll be returning with valuable varsity experience. You also have Austin Kramer as a junior. He'll be a running back, also a linebacker on the defensive side of the ball. He saw significant playing time as a sophomore. Caleb Shrake is a junior. He'll be a wide receiver and a cornerback, experienced two-way contributor there. Keegan Walker, listed as a running back, wide receiver, and cornerback, dynamic athlete, and a sprinter for the Illini West track team. So, several of their impact players playing on both sides of the ball for this Coach Lafferty team here.
Yeah, if you're going to be a first-year head coach here, you got a good group coming in. So, new era, right? But this is a group that, they finished 5-5, qualified for the playoffs for the third straight season, and now they don't have Isaiah Knotts anymore, but they're going to be relying on that experienced junior class and continuing that development with the skill players they've got coming back, maintaining that winning tradition, being that perennial postseason player that Coach Lafferty experienced with Carthage back in the day. So I think they got the right man for the job here at a good program with a lot of good players coming back.
Yeah. I think for this Illini West program, there's a lot of excitement here, but not to give too much away in our, predictions. They got to deal with Farmington, Macomb, West Hancock, who was a playoff team a year ago. So, and I know they were a playoff team as well, but there's a lot in this conference, right? There's a lot to deal with and a lot of talent that we've talked about coming back.
Yeah, as we kind of preview these next couple of teams, I think listeners will understand that this is going to be an iron sharpens iron type of division. So I think we're going to see good football. I think I mentioned at the top of the program that I think every one of these teams will be in the playoffs, and I do believe that.
Yep.
And I think that'll be even under normal circumstances. I think there's 5-win teams of all of these 5 groups, there are 5 wins for each of these 5 teams.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going here. Macomb, the Bombers, Tanner Horrell is back with the Bombers. They were 9-2 a year ago. They made it to the second round of the playoffs where they ran into Geneseo, a very good Geneseo football team. But last year is one story. This year, you look at what they got, Mitch. 9 returning on offense, 9 returning on defense. This was a team that we were really excited about a year ago, and they pretty much bring everybody back. This is a really exciting Bomber football team.
Yeah, I don't know if that means, I don't know what the criteria that coach used for starters.
Sure.
But I mean, if it does mean that it's all 9 from all 11 games last year on both sides of the ball, that's incredible. But either way, it doesn't matter how you slice it. Having that much experience come back is phenomenal. But the names are names that we called out a lot last year, and we're going to be doing it again this year. So we'll run through it a little bit. On the offensive side of the ball, Drake May, 1,100 yards rushing last year, about 7 yards a carry, 15 touchdowns, but Greg, no fumbles for Drake May.
Can I pause real quick? Just so everybody knows, in our area, we now have a Drake May and we have a Colt McCoy. Those are 2 names we have in our area playing football this year. So,
correct. Now the viewers and listeners might be more familiar with Drake May than Colt McCoy, but you need to get your research on and know what Colt McCoy did.
That's right.
Back in his Texas years.
All right.
Back to this year's Macomb team. Speaking of quarterbacks, Caden Nupp is back. 1,500 yards through the air, 15 touchdowns, another 340 yards on the ground with 8 more. A dynamic dual threat quarterback. Kyler Norton back as one of the leading receivers, 5 touchdowns last year. Carter Havens, 230 yards receiving, but he also runs the ball 225, a dynamic two-way player. Well, not two-way, but dynamic player on offense. The entire offensive line allowed 1 sack all season while helping the Bombers average 6.5 just about yards per carry. Will Thomas, Charlie Bodiford, Eli McClure, Sam Potter, Aiden Reynolds. Starters, no sacks allowed, just, 1, but an incredible group coming back here for the Bombers. You've got Colby Martin, who has transferred in this year. Hayden Katz was 38 of 39 on extra points. So just on offense, Greg, the 9 starters that come back, including incredible production from your quarterback and your running back, and an offensive line that does not allow defenders in there, this is a strong Bomber group coming back.
Yeah, and well, you mentioned Kyler Norton. He'll be on defense as well. Carter Havens will be on defense, but a few other names. Colby Martin, I guess you mentioned him being on the defensive side of the ball. But how about Jeshua McFeeters? 80 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. He's back as a senior. Blaze Howell, a senior defensive end, 53 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Drake Tabor, 52 tackles, 4 for loss, 2 fumble recoveries. The production, Mitch, is just, it's across the board. It's in all 3 phases of the game.
Yep. Everywhere you look, it's remarkable. So one of the area's most experienced teams coming back, I think we've just kind of nailed that pretty good. 3 4-year starters, that offensive line, physical front seven, passing game's going to evolve around Nup, and the defense is going to be able to bring back whatever they did lose. They've got all the ingredients here to make a deeper playoff run than they did last year.
Yep. I think the big thing for them is you look back last year, and they were a team that we had circled at the beginning of the year that could be a potential conference winner when it was the LLC large division. And we thought, depending on their draw in the playoffs, see what they can do. I think the big thing, you look back at they 9-2, obviously the loss to Geneseo, that's tough, right? The Geneseo is a good football team. But in the regular season, you look at that Farmington game, they had Farmington on the ropes. They had Farmington looking like they might beat Farmington, and they let it
back-to-back years. The game before that was the year before that with Farmington and Macomb was a really good game.
And Macomb let it slip away, right? So I think you look at, is this the group now that they have that experience? They've been there. They've been in those games to come through and get that win. I think that's the big thing for them to kind of take that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. So if they can continue where they did last year, establish that running game, do the opposite defensively, right? Stop the run defensively, continue to win that turnover battle. We talked about how there was no sacks. We talked about how Drake May doesn't fumble the ball. If they can do those things, this is a group that should be favored to not only compete with Farmington but win this division.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. One more thing before we move along. This Bombers program has a really strong senior class. We've talked a lot about the names that have come up through this program. I think it's really important to bring up this is an especially close bond because unfortunately this group has been through a lot. They lost a teammate, Landon Cromer, in a tragic accident their freshman season. And so they've kind of rallied around embracing the family rallying cry, which, a lot of teams say it, but it feels like it means a little bit more. It means a lot more here for this Macomb class or this Macomb program as they kind of rally around Landon Cromer and, what he meant to them in this program. Drake May, the senior linebacker, has led them onto the team carrying a flag in Landon's honor before every game. So really cool stuff there that, I guess, a really cool tribute in a really tough situation, a really impossible, situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for this senior group who have been through a lot, both on the field and off the field, I think they are primed and ready to make one final run at this thing. And this is an exciting group, no doubt about it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, one more team to talk about. Mitch, the last team we preview in the Lincoln Land Conference was the first team that returned their form. So how about that?
And one who responded to an X message within a couple of minutes of me sending one just earlier in the show.
That's right. So head coach Coy Dorothy, shout out to you, my friend. Thanks for being a friend of the show and helping us out. He was the first one. He got that form back within, hours of me sending it out. So that was awesome. We love that. 2025, the Titans were 6-4. They lost to Wilmington in the first round of the playoffs. Mitch, I think you had eyes on this game. Didn't West Hancock score early?
They did.
Yeah.
I think they led 6-0, and then, to no fault of their own, Wilmington happens because the Wilmington happens to everybody.
Yeah.
But no, they weren't scared. They give them that.
Yeah. Let's not talk about the rest of it, but it started well for them. They executed an opening drive.
And no discredit to West Hancock. That Wilmington group last year was on a different planet.
Incredible. They went on to win a state championship for very good reason. So, all right, impact players on the offensive side of the ball for West Hancock. Hunter Froman, 51 receptions, almost 1,000 yards receiving, 17.9 yards per catch. How about that, Mitch? 9 receiving touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, another kickoff return for a touchdown, so 13 total. That's a great piece to bring back. But Chandler Dadent, comes back at running back. He had over 1,000 yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, 4 receptions. He had another receiving touchdown as well. And Logan Baker on the offensive line is a piece to look at to build around. So a lot of excitement back for this offense. The defense has those same names coming back. So both sides of the ball bring back production.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a really good basketball program too with Hunter Froman at and I don't know if Chandler plays, but I know I've seen Hunter's name thrown around there on the basketball court for West Hancock. But no, don't bring back a ton, but bring back a lot, if that makes sense, right? Only maybe those 3 names as returning starters, but that's a lot. That's a good group, a good foundation to bring back. So we talk about Hunter and Chandler, 2 of the most productive playmakers we'll talk about in this show throughout any conference that we talk about. But the Titans believe that they've got the excitement surrounding the program. They've got increased participation that will help kind of ease that transition maybe. And with those 2 playmakers, that's going to help even more. So they're going to need those new starters to develop quickly, but they've got the potential to go back and remain a playoff contender like Coach Dorothy wants them to be.
Yeah. Dayton had 96 tackles on defense as a linebacker last year, 11 tackles for loss. So he was really productive on the defensive side as well. We called his name out a lot, and for good reason. Mitch, we talked to Coach Dorothy after they clinched their playoff berth last year. Man, I will admit, I'm going to really miss those 5-win playoff clinching conversations, because that was a lot of fun. But we'll move along. We won't dwell on it. Either way, that was a lot of fun talking to Coach Dorothy last year, because it felt like it was that milestone win where the program they were building, and they'd come from very little, and to get back to the postseason was a huge mark. And I think they're eyeing more now. I think they're looking at, building on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach Dorothy has said that their team's greatest strength is, or it could be, the bond off the field. They pride themselves on having that true family atmosphere. These players genuinely care about one another, and they know that it's bigger than the game, but they certainly want to take care of business on the field as well. So it might look a little bit different than what we've seen from West Hancock, but I think that with what they have back, and we'll see what their schedule looks like, how it shakes out, I think they will be competing for that playoff spot. But as I mentioned, I'll say it again, I think every team in this division will be in the playoffs. Even if we were still in the legacy format, I think they would each have 5 wins.
Yeah. I really like what Coach Dorothy does here. I really like the way he leads this team. So I'm excited to see that energy continue to build, that momentum continue to build. Mitch, you talk about a lot of these teams and you think they're all going to have success. You can only pick one who you think is going to win the conference or win the division. So I got to put you on the spot.
Oh, man. There's an element of it's Farmington's until they lose it, right?
Yep.
I think they've earned that.
Yep.
I think that they've proven in years that they've had to replace some starters, that they just do it all over again. And I have no reason to doubt them again. I'm going to go with Farmington in 2026. But I think that the Farmington-Macomb game, whenever that is, will automatically be on our game of the year when we talk about it at the end. If Macomb loses that game, I think Macomb finishes 8-1. I don't see where they will get challenged outside of Farmington. I really don't. With what they have coming back, it will surprise me none if they are the undefeated champion in this division. So, but I'll stick with Farmington. I'm a big fan of Carson Noy, and I think that whatever that offense looks like with the pieces around the pieces around Noy and Brewer and all of those players on defense, including Garrett Perkins, the quiet assassin that no one's talking about. Yep. I'm going to stick with Farmington here in 2026. Macomb is going to be right there. If not there, it's going to be one of those two, I think.
Mitch, we are so close in our predictions, yet so far away. I think I think I said it last year on this preview episode that I thought Macomb was going to win the conference. Now, head coach Toby Vallis in Farmington proved me wrong last year.
Yep.
I'm dumb. I'm going to make the same mistake again, maybe. According to Coach Vallis, would say this. Coach Horrell would think, hopefully would agree with me. I think Macomb is going to win the conference, the division here.
Okay.
And now, I think it's going to come down to that game, like you just said. But I'm leaning Macomb once again. I said it last year. I'm going to say it again. We'll see. Farmington has been known to prove me wrong, so we'll see if it happens.
Yeah.
But I do.
Look,
I really like what Macomb has here.
There's going to be a list of most anticipated games of the season, and this one I think will top it, like easily, with Lena Winslow and Stockton maybe being a 1A 1B thing.
Yep.
But it should have that level of excitement, I think, with Farmington and Macomb, because I really think it's going to be an outstanding football game. Again, we're only going off of what we have on paper right now, but if the stars line up the way we think they will, that game should be one of the best games of the year.
All right, Mitch, I'm kind of like calling this on the fly, but maybe once the IHSA officially has schedules on the website, maybe that's our next challenge, is to put out a social media post with the most anticipated games from our coverage area. I think that'd be fun to look into.
No, I like that.
Yep. So, all right, well, that's, stay tuned on social media for that. We'll get you to that. But speaking of social media, remember, share this episode on X using the hashtag VFTW Challenge, View from the West Challenge. Help get your conference the most views and get yourself a chance to win a free Godfather's Pizza from Silvis. How can you go wrong?
Yeah. Again, appreciate everyone being participants in this new challenge. I think it's fun, and we thank Andy for being along for the ride. But just looking back at this whole episode as a whole, I think with the changes to the divisions in this conference and the names of returning stars, production, everything coming back, I think we're in line for a fun season. It's all business in the LLC. I think we're going to see some really good football. And again, just looking into that West Division, I think we're going to see some absolutely phenomenal games this year. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think each division brings a very unique storyline with the way that this divisions are now aligned in the LLC. I think it's going to lead to a great season. So I'm excited. So Mitch, this is the LLC episode, the season preview in the books. We've already talked NUIC and 8-man football. Next week, we're talking the Big Northern Conference. So we're getting into the defending state champion, the Byron Tigers. We got Dixon, who had a great season last year coming back, but a lot of other teams in the mix, including Dupec, the brand new team in the Big Northern. So next week is the Big Northern Conference with our conference insider, Tanner Wilhelm. I'm excited to jump in and record that one. If you're an athletic director or a coach from one of those teams, if you haven't gotten back to us yet, please do, because we're trying to find some last-minute teams and some info. So,
yep, absolutely. The more you can provide us, the better we can cover your team. And we hate to go through these episodes and say we don't know too much about them, but we truly don't if we don't get those forms back. So if you're listening to this, and maybe just double check if you have or haven't, because we would appreciate that.
Yep. So thank you so much to everyone who listens, who subscribes, who follows along. Enjoy this one. We'll talk to you again next week when we're talking Big Northern football.
That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. I encourage you to subscribe on YouTube and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on X and Instagram to keep up to date on our latest news and content. You can also contact us through email, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com, to share stats, stories, or information. Thank you to everyone who listens and supports local football.